please don't go on to set and say, what do I want to shoot? If you do that, you've lost everybody, okay? You don't want to be that guy. Please don't. Welcome back to How to Make Your First Feature Film. In this series, I'm chronicling the ups and downs of making my first movie, so that way you can learn too how to make your first feature film with next to no resources. If you're new to this series, be sure to go back and check out the previous 2 episodes, which cover everything from writing your script to scheduling out your shoot. In this episode, I want to talk about some of the final steps of pre-production that you're going to want to lock down before you step onto set. One thing that you don't want to neglect with your feature film is setting aside some time for rehearsals. Now, for a no-budget indie film, you're probably not going to have too much time to rehearse in person, and plus scheduling would be a pain for that. So what I did was I took some time to work with my cast over Zoom. So the first thing that I tried to do was arrange a Zoom conference call for everybody to do a table read where we would read the script from front to back. And I found that the scheduling was a little bit difficult here. Everybody does have, some very conflicting schedules. And unfortunately for the table read, a lot of the main cast wasn't able to appear. So to counteract this, I reached out to a lot of the cast individually, and I started setting up some times where I could meet with them one-on-one to just rehearse their parts. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the scheduling here, I really don't wanna brush over. Scheduling these rehearsals is very difficult. Especially if you're trying to set up any rehearsals with, more than one of your actors, because what might be a great time for one of your actors to log in and meet with you over Zoom could be a horrible time for somebody else. If somebody works days and someone else works nights, but you need to try to find a middle ground to rehearse, and you're looking at weekends, but so-and-so is actually going to be doing a different movie that weekend and won't be able to, it can be tough. But trust me, bear with it, go through the process. Rehearsing the scenes with your cast before coming onto set is going to help you a lot in the long run, especially when you're trying to fight time when you're on set in production. So outside of rehearsals, I also want to talk about some of the final preparations that you're going to want to make as you finish up pre-production and start heading into production. One thing that I really recommend, because pre-production is such an important part of the filmmaking process, and how you plan is really going to determine how well your shoot goes. I really recommend you stay organized and create a checklist that has all the necessary items that you're going to need to gather before you step onto set. I like to break down my checklist into certain categories such as wardrobe, props, equipment, and etc. In some cases there might be, vehicles, which the only time we've used a vehicle thus far was when we did the proof of concept, and we used my personal car and one of the actors' cars. But the point is, you're going to want to break down into very specific categories and list out each thing that you need and do it in a checklist, so that way you're going to be less likely to forget something on set if you're going through that list and you're individually checking off each item that you need to bring with you in those different categories of props, of wardrobe, equipment, etc. I also like to create checklists for different tasks that go into pre-production, especially as we get closer and closer to actual days of shooting. So for instance, I'll create a checklist that'll have certain tasks like sending out the call sheets, for instance. I'll have, for creating release forms and getting all the paperwork prep that I need. I'll create like a checklist for the crew that's going to be on set for the next shoot. And, to be able to set aside some time throughout the week to have some small, brief, maybe 5-10 minute phone calls with the crew just to talk about what the plan's going to be before they come to set. So some of the paperwork that I like to make sure that I have printed out include the release forms, the script pages, shot lists, storyboards, all of that good stuff. But also I'd like to make sure that I have a printed version of the call sheet as well. So I'll email everyone a digital version of it, but then I like to keep one on hand because the call sheet is really going to be that super tool that's going to help you get through the day, along with that pre-production checklist that if you made that, I would recommend printing that off too, because that's going to help you stay on track with everything that you need and make sure that you have everything on set. But with the call sheet, one question I had going into making my first movie was how to make a call sheet. and what goes into it. And I found this website that I'm going to link down in the description below, which is what I use to create my call sheets. It's a very simple, straightforward template. And it really does feature a lot of the things that you'd want to put on the call sheet, such as, what scenes are you going to be shooting? What cast do you need? What crew members do you need? What are the call times that people need to show up? Things like that. There's even, a section on there to put where the nearest hospital is. I know some people might get a little bit nervous. I send it out and they're like, wait, hold on. Why do you got the hospital on here? What are we shooting? And I'm like, no, don't worry. It's there because it's a precaution, but it's great to have, just in case of any kind of emergency. So there is a lot that goes into creating a call sheet. And if you go to that simple call sheet template that I'm putting down in the description, it's going to help you a lot with it. And so I also mentioned shot lists and storyboards. I don't think I talked enough about this in some of the earlier videos where I was really talking about some of the more, practical things that you need to do to get ready, like actually, getting any of the props, wardrobe that you're going to need, the cast, crew, locations, all that stuff. But back on the creative front of this, the shot list, man, you got to have a shot list. Please don't go on to set and say, what do I want to shoot? If you do that, you've lost everybody, okay? You don't want to be that guy. Please don't. Come in with the prepped shot list. Now, is it going to change? Yeah. What sounds good in your head might not flow as good on location. And, as you're, working through the day, you might realize that some of the shots that you wanted are nice to have, but you don't need them to tell the story and you're trying to stay on schedule. So the shot list is very handy. Be prepared to go off of that every now and then, but it's going to keep you a lot more organized and it's going to help you get through your day, that much faster if you already have a pre-planned list of these are the individual shots we want to have. You check those off as you go, and then, before you know it, you checked off all the shots and then you're wrapped for the day. So that's really important. Storyboards are important as well. A storyboard is essentially you're taking your shot list and you're drawing it out and providing a visual cue to show your crew and show the cast of what you're envisioning in the scene. It's especially helpful if you're working with a second camera operator or if you're bringing on someone to serve as your director of photography to kind of walk them through it. I hate storyboarding personally because I'm a horrible artist. I tell people there's a reason why I do my art behind a camera, but I still do it because it's really important. Don't get hung up on, if the drawings look good or not. Your drawings can look like crap. I mean, look at my drawings. This is nothing to be proud of here. But you know what it does? It gives a general idea of these are where I want the actors to be placed in relation to the scene, and this is where I want the camera to be positioned to get that shot that I want. If I want to get a wide or a medium or a close-up, if I want to go low angle, eye level, etc. I have, these visual cues to show whoever's helping out on camera that day and to show the actors too. Just it's helpful for them to kind of see what you're envisioning for them as well for the blocking. Because film's a visual medium and you're going to get a lot farther if you have, visual cues to show people what you're kind of imagining. So don't get hung up on the drawing. Storyboarding is really important. And so something else that I kind of briefly touched on earlier in the video, but is really, really important is an estimated daily schedule. Now, you're not necessarily going to know how long it's going to take you to get each shot and how long the setups are going to take for those shots. But if you plan carefully and you give kind of rough estimates, you could kind of see how much time is it going to take to get through the day. And it helps you on set, especially if you have someone coming in to help as a first AD, to really keep you in check for your schedule. Because where you might want to say, oh, let's get one more for safety, maybe you want to move on to the next setup because you're starting to push close to lunch, or maybe one of your actors has to wrap by a certain time. So you really want to pay attention to that schedule and, provide an estimate. And I recommend overestimating for time as well, because it's better to overestimate and find yourself being ahead of schedule than to underestimate and just say, oh yeah, I can knock out this shot, and this shot in a half hour. And then you find out that, an hour and a half went by and you're like, well, crap. You don't want that, okay? You want to find that, oh, wow, that only, took me an hour and a half, and I thought it'd take me like 2 hours. I'm a half hour ahead of schedule. It's gonna calm you down on set, because believe me, when you get to set, you got a lot running through your mind, okay? Especially if you're working with the skeleton crew and you're double dipping in a lot of positions. Like if you're directing, DPing, wardrobe, prop master, going on and on and on, etc., right? You got so much on your head that you do not want to be looking at the schedule and realize that you're falling behind. And so I say take that schedule, pair it up with your shot list, and then estimate how much time you think things are going to take. And then that'll give you an idea of what should you really set your call time for. When do you think would be a good idea to break it up and have a lunch break? And when do you, predict you'll wrap? So it really does help to keep that schedule and print that off with you to have when you're on set. And so another piece of paperwork I talked about that's really, really important, and I don't know how many indie filmmaker YouTube channels like to talk about this side, but it really, really is important, so I want to discuss it here, and that's release forms. And those are for the cast and crew, and also for your locations. You want to have these with you, and you want to make sure that they get signed. Now, is it necessarily because you're worried that somebody's going to come back and sue you? Usually not. I mean, if you're working with, friends and family in your movies, yeah, they're probably not going to sue you. But for distribution, if you actually want to sell your movie when you're done, you want to be able to establish a clean chain of title. You don't want anything getting muddied up with, because what can happen if you don't have these signed release forms is some distribution companies, entertainment lawyer is going to be, looking at it, and they're going to say, yeah, well, let's say your lead actor didn't sign a release form. He could claim ownership on the movie, which is going to put us in a legal pickle. And, it's going to make it harder for anyone to distribute your movie if you don't have a clean chain of title. So you want to make sure that you have release forms ready for everyone that's going to help out on cast and crew. And I found a really nice template that I'm also going to link down in the description that you can use. Beautiful template. It's going to help you. It's your one-stop shop for a cast and crew release form. Just obviously, change the dates that's on there. And I think there's a couple other, things on it that you can edit and adjust. So have that one. And then for the location form, for those release forms, to have location owners sign. Those ones I'm going to link as well. I have another template that's specific for locations that I've been using on In the Hands of Fate. I'll link that down in the description. You want to, adjust and alter different sections of that contract. There's sections that talk about what pay would be used, the dates that you're going to be using the location. So make sure you go in and edit all those, and make sure that you get your location owners to sign those, because you do want to have that clean chain of title. All right, I know this was probably a lot to throw at you in just one short video, a lot of information, but I really hope that you're able to take away something valuable from it, because I will say that pre-production, while it might not be the most fun part of making a movie, it's the most important. How you plan your shoot determines how your shoot will go, and how your shoot goes will determine how it comes out in post. So you got to start from the ground up, really build a good plan, a good foundation in pre-production, and that's going to help you go a long way when you're working on your movie as a whole. But anyway, that is all I have time for here today. Remember, if you like this content and you want to see even more videos on independent filmmaking, be sure to let me know by dropping a like, subscribe, turn that bell on for notifications. And if you're an independent filmmaker and you have some advice for a first-time filmmaker, especially in the pre-production process, go ahead and leave a comment. Let the world know what advice that you have to share. I say this in every video, and I'm going to say it again. I don't have all the answers. I do not claim to have all the answers. I am learning as I go while making my first movie, and then I'm simply sharing what I learn along the way with all of you so that we can grow together as a filmmaking community. Anyway, that's all that I have for you here today. Until next time, that's a wrap.